fly. Our courses run, and the setting sun ends our tenuous day. Eyes are dry at the last goodbye. This is the Ateneo way. Merry for you, for your white and blue. We pray you keep us merry, constantly true. We pray you keep us merry, faithful to you. Down from the hill, down to the world go I, remembering still how the bright blue eagles fly. Through joys and tears, through the laughing years, we sing our battle song. Win or lose, it's a school we choose. This is the place where we belong. Merry for you, for your white and blue. We pray you keep us merry, constantly true. We pray you keep us merry, faithful to you.
Radyo-Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo-Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo-Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin sa loob, sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, katipunero sugo. Todo sa kayod, tunong at tulong. Lipad na Blue Eagle, galing giting at tigil. Blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, 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 katipunan. Radyo, radyo, katipunan. Radyo, katipunan. Radyo, radyo, katipunan.
This is your stop for all things pop. Catch our all-around pop culture geek, Cholo Sediaren, as he throws in some dose of what's poppin' and what's hot in the pop culture scene here on Popcorn. Munchin' with us every Thursdays from 4 to 6, only here on radyo-katipunan 87.9 FM.
So let's start in 3, 2, 1. What's poppin' and welcome to Popcorn with Cholo and your stop for all things pop, where we talk about all things pop culture from here in the Philippines to the rest of the globe. And welcome to our final episode for the year. What a year it has been or has not been. I'm not too sure what the correct answer to that is. But we will be recapping the best of 2021 in TV and film in this episode. But before we begin, of course, let's welcome back our co-hosts for this episode. Unahin natin yung mga matagal na natin hindi nakita. Batiin natin. Welcome from Dagupan. From Dagupan talaga. Welcome, Jason Tanliwag. Welcome.
Yay.
Hi, everyone. Also from New York City. Wow. Sobrang excited about Denny is back. Welcome.
Go, Danny.
Our correspondent from the United States. Let's go. Of course, speaking of correspondents, we have our Twitter verified news correspondent. Burns, welcome back.
Hello.
And of course, we have Emil, the Despacito master.
Okay, I like that more than like your usual spiel.
Yeah, sige. We'll take that from here on. So if you don't know why we're calling Emil the Despacito master, go ahead and listen to our previous episode where you will find out why Emil is a master of Despacito and its people. And of course, we have Paula. Welcome back to the show.
Hi.
And here we are at the end of the year. Yun. I guess let's just do a quick what the hell has this year been for us before we head on to our main definitely for me, let's just go roundabout on like what this year has been in general, what you feel were highlights, if you can call it that, or like low light. I'm not too sure, but parang I guess for me it's been pretty muddled coming from parang the continuation from 2020. Parang 2021 doesn't really have a shape of its own for me. Parang it's just been like that continuation. What is time? It's moving, but it's not. We're here, but we're also outside, but not really. So parang it's just really been a lot of that. So I guess when it comes to what we're going to be talking about later in terms of TV and movies, the pacing has been a bit different than in terms of what you can watch, what you can even access, especially since in the US nagsimula na magbukas, and even other countries prior to the Philippines opening cinemas have been having access more than us. All those factors, and it's just been a weird, I guess, limbo year as a season 2 to 2020. So that's 2021 for me. I parang walang mga super, like last year we can really talk about like the super major things that happened. 2021 doesn't really feel that way, except I guess for Philippine stuff, like the demon spawns teaming together and all that. But that's another story and another movie. Hopefully not a musical. Anyone else?
It's really hard to it's really hard to characterize 2021 because we've all just really been stuck at home still, so there's really not a lot of like action going around. I guess just for me personally, the highlight is really getting into a sport for like the first time in how long, and that feeling of having a community with you, watching it live and reacting to it live. That's definitely something that I've missed. And while watching sports, in this case Formula One, online isn't the same as like, let's say, going to a UAAP game and watching a basketball or volleyball game like with all of your classmates and stuff, there is still that feeling of community that I've sorely missed because of the lockdown. So for me, having that thing,
the plot twist of the year.
Yeah, the plot twist of the year, both the sport itself, because that final race was crazy, and the act of being in this community it's a really big plot twist and one that I'm very happy to have and will continue to have moving forward.
Hopefully live na rin. And,
Yes, that's the goal, to
and
go
to
to
add
Singapore.
to that,
rent-free.
it's really another thing Paula has dragged me into that I'm grateful for. So let's go. Denny was saying something also.
Yeah, I was I was just saying 2021, to speak to both your points, kind of feels like a hangover from like the worst night of my life. Which is 2020, like not like awful, but it's just like 2021 feels inevitably destined as 2020, like part 2, the sequel, expansion pack, what have you, in the way that they're connected, and you can't understand this year without understanding the last year. But with that being said, I mean, some nice things happened this year.
Sorry, to add to that, it's like Taylor Swift's sister albums, Folklore and Evermore. Evermore has been erased by Taylor Swift, much like 2021 versus 2020. So anyway, go back to your point.
I actually really like that metaphor because I cannot remember a single song from Evermore. Just I remember songs from Folklore, but like Evermore is like. But yeah, some nice things from this year. I personally started a newsletter, trying to be less like serious, like less everything I write has to be good, and just kind of this decade is about embracing our own infallibility on a personal and like societal level. I also moved, so that's another.
Yeah, then he got away from hell. So congrats.
It's great. Like once I see all the Instagram stories or the Instagram from people back home, and it's like they're experiencing it like the first few days when everything seems once again beautiful and messy and new. It's good.
Actually, I kind of agree with what Denny said. Yeah, it was a pretty bad. Like 2020 was pretty bad, but things have gotten better. Like the way I see it, 2021 is like a trek up a mountain again, because 2020 was just everything just felt downhill. Everything felt downhill, and yeah, we just picked ourselves up, kept going. A lot of us we got our vaccines this year. More people are gradually going out. PSA, just a reminder for everyone to get their booster shots if you're able na. And yun nga, like personally for me, I feel like I'm moving better. Like I feel a lot better than I do this year than I was last year. And now I'm able to see how much I've grown the past 2 years. Like even this year alone na ang dami kong nagawa, and there's so much to reflect on. And wala, even as bad as things still are, you have to be hopeful pa rin for like what happened. Like because the moment you lose hope, wala na. So especially for next year, gotta carry a lot of hope, because next year is gonna be a make or break talaga for all of us.
In the words of an icon, there's always gonna be another mountain. We're always gonna want to make it move.
Always gonna be an uphill battle.
Sometimes you're just gonna have to lose.
Oh,
not this one, please, not this one.
And
Sorry,
Miley
but
Cyrus for clear skin.
fair naman. Fair. I mean, review of the year. Emil.
I mean, it's still a bad year, honestly. I mean, I agree with Prince that, like, globally, while things are still, I wouldn't say things are good. Things definitely have gotten better, at least in terms of how people can protect themselves against the virus, etc., etc. Protocols are in place, so some businesses are able to, bounce back on their feet. On a personal level, though, it's not like I'm not like super sad about it anymore, and it's not like I can talk about it, man. But I feel like this year was worse off for me in the sense that this was, 2020, I guess we just kind of got off lucky, but this year was the year that I lost people to COVID. But despite that, it's this weird sort of timing thing. Things have gotten better, but just so happens that it finally caught up to the people I know. But I do know that the year also had, like, on a personal level again, like, successes. I spent half of the year reviewing for my grad school exams, which I passed. and then immediately just burnt out right after. So I feel like my year has been defined by that, by reviewing and then like literally having no more brain cells left. Yeah, but since in this episode we're talking about like movies and TV, this is also the year I think when film and TV sort of bounced back as well, and we finally started getting these long delayed releases as well as like just a whole bunch of other stuff. Like it feels like there's so much more good stuff this year than last year, and to me that's not nothing. Like that's still that sort of gives me a reason to keep chugging along. So yeah,
More
how about you,
stuff to add
Jace?
to our list, right?
Yeah.
Never ending.
I'm fine. I think that maganda yung pag-describe niyo, ano, na it feels like a weirdly static transitional year, in my opinion. Parang, to a certain extent, like, I'm very worried for next year. Like, I'm really worried for next year for a lot of reasons. But, like, I feel like it's just, yung final boss battle, parang, and this feels like the cutscene before that, and that's what it feels like to me, at least. Okay naman, I feel like the first half of the year personally was like really great, but then like the second half of the year was like, oh, but that's okay. I think that I think that it's more about the last 100 meters in this, like, I guess, weird, very lengthy marathon that we're running. Ayun, and I'm just very scared for next year. Yeah, but like, we're here to talk about pop culture, so.
But I mean, it's such a great like imagery of like 2020 as the first movie, 2021 as the Kailang sequel, and whatever finale it's setting up for 2022 that people are kind of worried about but also like excited to see. So but that's for next year. We'll head muna to our 2021 in review. You were gonna say something else pa, Jace, before we move on.
What? Sorry?
You were gonna say something else pa ba?
No, I'm good. Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, so ayan na nga. I mean, it's been a really odd year in general, but as usual, we do have our pop culture rundown of our favorite things we've seen this year. And as usual, we're 6 people on here. We have not been able to see everything, but we tried to do whatever we could to try and watch whatever we felt was right at the moment. And that would be varied or not so varied, I guess, in this group of people. But in terms of music of 2021, do listen to our previous episode, which we talked about kind of like a recap of our year in music and Despacito from 2017. And yeah, so that's where you can find our thoughts on 2021's music. But on this episode, of course, we'll be having our TV and movies rundown for the year. Let's start with our TV rundowns. I guess I'll start. So just for me, like so much Marvel TV, and it was a good thing after like 2 years of just having no Marvel at all, which was also a good thing because it was getting to a point where
We did that
it's like,
break.
yeah, parang okay, parang we need to breathe for a bit, and then when they did press on the go button, they just never stopped, and we're headed to even more Marvel TV and movie territory. WandaVision was just great period to start the year off and really to excite everyone into this new venture in like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I would say everything else that followed after. We do have some episodes on, I think, WandaVision and Loki. Nag-Loki ba tayo? We did, right? And Falcon
we
and
did.
Winter
We did,
Soldier.
and also
Yeah.
Falcon.
Those
we did
three,
Falcon,
yeah. We didn't get to cover so much yung What If.
What If.
And I mean, ongoing is Hawkeye, which is also pretty great, I would say, for
It's a fun Christmas watch.
it's a
yeah.
really like
Fun.
die-hard, fun, actiony
Exactly.
comedy thing. With really great chemistry between Clint and also Kate.
Kate,
So I mean, Marvel TV has just been like, something to look forward to. And it can get, I guess, to a general public lang. There's just gonna be like so much more to want to watch if you're like trying to keep up with the whole universe altogether. But Marvel TV was just like a great like addition to the year for sure. Na parang, every Wednesday you'd watch out for the episode, and the good pacing na every week episodes also really helped. So yeah, anything else to add for Marvel TV?
I mean, WandaVision to me, I think, was the best out of all of the television shows that Marvel has produced this year, on a personal opinion. Yeah. But in general, what I have missed with Marvel, like I mentioned earlier, is that sense of community. It was just fun to know that every week I would be chatting with a group of friends about the latest episode, and it felt somewhat like life was back to normal. And the biggest difference is instead of just us talking about it in person, it was just online. So that's great. It's just nice again having that feeling of people just watching the same things you are.
But not without the of spoilers on Twitter, because people just can't stop themselves, right? Even now, especially with the dawn of Spider-Man and No Way Home, or as I'd want to call it now, Spoiler Man, No Way to Avoid Me. Yeah, so that's another thing we've always discussed about spoilers on the show, diba? Parang we're like, oh, the beauty of Endgame, where everyone was just like disciplined enough to not talk about it, but somehow just threw it out the window as they left that cinema after Endgame in 2019. So, any other thoughts on Marvel TV? I mean, I know Emil is on a Disney diet, has been on a Disney diet for a while.
I mean, it's pretty cool na Marvel is now gonna take over television na rin. Like, like what Cholo said na there's so much na, like people who love Marvel and want to enter into this fandom, there's so much to see. Like, there's so much to enjoy. And yun nga, like, in this year alone, we had, WandaVision, Falcon, Loki, What If, and now Hawkeye. 5 different series to enjoy. Na even if you're a non-Marvel fan, my God, your plate is stacked. So, nakakatuwa. And it's like we get to individually see these characters excel even more. Like, we got to see how good, how much better Tom Hiddleston is. Catherine Hahn is amazing.
Who is getting her own show.
So, and seeing nga, so
we
like
get Jennifer Coolidge to be like another actress on that show.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I would die.
Why not, diba? And these shows are opening up so much. Like, ang daming spin-off from these movies. And bukod pa sa sequel, there's gonna be an Agatha show, an Echo show, season 2 of What If might play a part into the actual
the bigger
picture. So the creative minds in Marvel are really hard at work, and we get to enjoy it again. So it's fun to think about.
It feels like, how there are so many comic books that you have to like catch up on sometimes. It feels like that now with the cinematic universe, which can be super overwhelming if you're not like a massive fan of the world. But if you are a huge fan, it's great for you because you really never run out of content.
I guess my concern is lang, parang I guess if you're someone who just watches movies and not too much the TV shows, and aside from like Googling stuff, like how are they gonna transition towards introducing like a fully realized Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, or like a Captain America Falcon? Na parang that's gonna feel weird, I feel, to casual viewers who are kind of just like jumping into it through movies. So parang that's something interesting to see how it will pan out, because we've already seen some movie characters jump into TV shows. So that's a different side of the story. And same with Monica Rambeau as she appears, and Miss Marvel as they appear in the Marvels, right? So the interconnectivity, there's just more homework to do for people. And I'm not too sure. Kasi parang tayo, most generally are like, okay, we're caught up, but like, I'm not too sure about other people kung like, I guess it's just a tail end to this Marvel discussion. Like, in Endgame na parang, what's happening? Who are all these people? Infinity War. That alone already 10 years worth. So like, parang transitioning to that from TV and connecting those are, I feel like, something that they'll have to ease into. And in terms of introducing these parang fully fleshed more so na characters. Yun lang. Ang dami na. Anyway, so that's the Marvel segment. A lot of Marvel TV. And another great thing I loved from this year is Only Murders in the Building. And I know Paula also really likes this. I think kami yung mga early adopters here. Or I think Paula was the one who actually was like, hey, you should watch this.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that was a highlight. If you're into like if you're into true crime podcasts, or just like comedy, mystery, who done it narratives, this does it pretty well. And if you love, like, I really personally love Serial, the podcast from like popular podcast from 2016, so that was fit in right into that space. Wanna add to that, Paula?
I mean, I personally love murder mysteries. If you're that type of person, this is definitely a show to watch. It's not too heavy as well, because there are definitely shows that have come out that I know are very good, but I've like refrained from watching because it makes me feel a little too sad or too down, despite it being really good. Only Murders in the Building is definitely not that. You can watch it and have like a grand old time, and that's something that's very important to me about media. And honestly, if you're not a fan of Selena Gomez, this show might surprise you because she has a pretty good performance. She's fun to watch, and she has good chemistry with the two other like really great comedians here. So
the two Martins.
The two Martins. So I loved it. I loved it so much, and I'm so glad that a lot of people did too.
Yeah, if you're ready, come and get it.
Yeah.
I mean, people should give Selena Gomez more credit. To be honest, like, why so much flack on
Honestly,
Selena Gomez?
She's great.
And her music is pretty good. Like, you can say all you want about like just parang going off tangent into music. Parang nawala na kasi yung, alam mo yun, singer. I think this is a discussion. I'm not sure if we had this, but like, it's been all about the singer-songwriter, and people just forgot about like kind of like the production by other people or writing by other people, which I think deserves some love still. And those are a lot of bops that Selena has given us over the years. So completely off tangent again, but back to TV. White Lotus is something I really enjoyed from this year. Na parang it's just like, I guess, coming from a Konyo adjacent parang environment, seeing that working into play into that environment, and like, you know, just seeing the drama and comedy unfolding from all these rich white people just generally gentrifying an island, essentially. It's just like really, really good drama. And Jennifer Coolidge again. I know if Jeremiah was here, he'd be raving all over Jennifer Coolidge and White Lotus. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it would be nice to have like a Filipino version, I would say.
The movie.
I was in Balasin the other day. I was like, this is a White Lotus-esque thing that you can make a show out of, because, you know, it's just very interesting. And I feel like you can adapt that into a Philippine rich people society setting as well. Anyway, continuing on my list, Doctor Who Flux. I've been talking about this again and again. It's season 13 of Doctor Who, with the 13th Doctor, and it's just been a really great season. 6 episodes, and just a great final season for Jodie Whittaker, I would say. And like, I guess in terms of Doctor Who lore, kasi parang what more can you do with the Doctor Who lore? It kind of dives deeper into what else they can do in the future as the 13th Doctor departs the TARDIS. So that's pretty interesting where they're gonna head with the last three specials of 13th Doctor and also heading into the 14th Doctor and the 60th year of Doctor Who or 55th ba? I don't even know anymore. 60th na yata. 60th is next. That's the next big Doctor Who anniversary special. With the return of Russell T Davies,
Yes!
who was the showrunner from 2005 to 2010. So it's gonna be interesting how they're gonna head into that territory. And I just love Doctor Who. This reminded me so much of why I loved it in the first place. So much this season, a lot of Weeping Angels, Daleks, Cybermen, no, there's no Zygons. Diba? There were Sontarans, everything. There was a lot of if you're just into that, watch Doctor Who, period. Ano pa ba? Ted Lasso, great find for the year for sure. If you just needed like a great a GV thing to watch, it's just like a lot of like good vibes and just like, you know, smiles from ear to ear, I would say. I know a lot of people on this episode love Ted Lasso. Anything you want to add on that?
Ted Lasso is my best show for the year. I love it so much. I don't think any show has brought me like, it's not even just happiness because Ted Lasso has made me cry like in several episodes, especially in the latest season. But it felt like going to therapy. That's what I felt with Ted Lasso. It made me really look into my own emotions as the characters were looking into theirs, and it was a very wonderful and therapeutic journey that I'm glad is on television, and I'm glad that it's getting as much buzz and acclaim to it because I think it definitely deserves it, and we need more Jason Sudeikis in our lives generally. So I'm just very happy about that.
I'll echo the Ted Lasso thing because I mean, especially by season 2, it is a show about therapy because of the new the team therapist who comes in. But it's also, I mean, it's not just about her approach to these football players. I feel like this season starts to sort of challenge how Ted Lasso himself tries to coach his team, and it sort of contrasts that between, let's say, what Beard and what the rest of his coaching staff are trying to do as well. And I like that it doesn't, I mean, without spoiling, but it doesn't exactly turn out well for everybody this season, especially one character who will not be named that everyone hates now, where all the like, good actor, exactly, but all like the good advice he was being given completely backfired. I think it's a really interesting character to put in a show that has become about therapy. So I enjoy it as well.
Bouncing off of that, it's a good way to show that hurt people really hurt people. And it's not, you know, through any like genuine fault of just him. It's really just a compounding experience of his life. And there's another character who's the complete like opposite of that journey, and it was just wonderful to see all around. I love Ted Lasso. We should do an episode on Ted Lasso.
Maybe we should.
Okay.
If you guys do one, I will binge watch it all. I will.
I feel like you genuinely. I mean, it's about football also.
Yeah. So. Watch footballs.
Well, time, hang it time.
Okay.
The only FC I watch is Richmond FC. All right. I guess just some honorable mentions before we head on to the other people. I really like the K-drama Nevertheless. We had a whole episode about it also. And if you're Marupok, you should watch it because you will feel hurt and just see yourself in the mirror. I also liked Invincible from Amazon. Really fun superhero show. And Steven Yeun, period. And also like Sandra Oh and everyone in that show. Just a yes, as we would say. It's not really yassified, but it's a yes. And then Girl from Nowhere. I didn't watch the whole seasons, but like Nano is such a great character, and it's just fun to watch when you need something like parang wala lang, a popcorn show about revenge and like parang how people can get. It's a great study on society, and I guess since parang Thai society is very similar to Philippine society in a sense that we're Southeast Asians, the topics that they cover are pretty like somewhat relatable on some level, and the actress Kitty just does really well. Her laugh is just like iconic, and you should watch at least one episode of Girl from Nowhere. It's on Netflix. So those are my shows for the year. Everything else has been the same thing, like new episodes of RuPaul and all that. Demon Slayer is something I started getting into this year. Also
I will
amazing.
talk about that later.
Um, and yeah, I mean, great year naman of what I've seen so far. Next person, Burns.
Sige. Mine will be quick because again, I'm not a big series person. I only watch TV like in between movies, like while I was waiting for a new movie to pop up. So one of the decisions I made was I would go back to the Arrowverse because back in high school, I really watched it a lot. Even in college, I watched it a lot. And just to go back to these favorite superheroes that I used to love, like I missed na talaga Grant Gustin's Barry Allen. Still hate Iris. still hate her. Still hate her. But and I got to see Melissa do her last season as Supergirl. John Carr was still pretty good as a Lex Luthor. I have to say, I kind of enjoyed him. And also interesting to see how Batwoman would continue navigating without Ruby Rose, which gave Rachel Skarsten more time to rise because she's so good. Like someone who's read some Batman comics, Alice is not really a big character. Like she's barely talked about. But then the writers write her up, and Rachel she creeps me every time, but na-amuse ako. Like, the way she just stares at you, she doesn't blink. She hardly blinks. She really leans into the madness of her character. And it's so, nakaliw. And I don't blame na why that Batwoman is, well, it's pretty much a Batman story. Pero, what can you do? It really is like, the season 3 is all about Batman memorabilia. Trying to recollect them all. So, wala. But I'll hope na because right now all the Arrowverse shows are in a mid-season break. Won't come back until January. So especially
they did have like a crossover-ish, right, on the Flash.
The Flash, yeah, like 4 straight episodes na medyo crossover siya. So yun nga.
A soft crossover.
Yeah, that's how the creators talaga talked about. It's not really a crossover episode, but like this is how we'll start the Flash though. So interesting to see how they will continue that next year. And I'm pretty surprised na Legends of Tomorrow still finds somehow to make a story keep going and going and going. Wala, it's just pure fun. Like you have all these major serious na shows, but then you have Legends of Tomorrow who are just having fun as they time travel. Well, in this case, they're not time traveling because of issues. But yun nga. And apart from the Arrowverse, I also decided to go back into DC's Titans, which honestly, I think season 3 isn't that bad because it adapts 3 really good Batman comics: No Man's Land, Under the Hood, and Death in the Family. So all of them great comics from the Batman, and pretty good to see na Titans isn't so gritty. Like they're not trying to act so mature anymore. And so try to let loose a bit, and it'll be hopefully it's a sign of where this HBO Max series can go from here. And hopefully Cyborg might come in. I don't know. I don't watch Doom Patrol kasi. What else? And
is it the same universe as Doom Patrol?
Yeah, it is because in Crisis, Raven ended up in the mansion. And then, now Doom Patrol is happening on its own. Tama ba, Emil? Is it right? Do you watch Doom Patrol ba?
I don't, but I just know that during the previous crossover. Like they just sort of spliced in footage from like all the
Yeah,
other DC
yun din
shows.
eh.
So it's
Yeah.
assumed that everything is technically in the same universe.
Like even Stargirl and is still part of the universe, which I also haven't seen. Max would be the person to ask about it. And yun nga, like, so the only show that I really binged watch every week is Survivor, because I'll talk about it every week. Which is, my God, for end of 2020 to the starting of 2021, binge watched 40 seasons of Survivor. That's amazing. But yun nga, having said that, now I'm watching it as it goes. I get to appreciate now even more the gameplay, and now they realize how the year before was pretty hectic. Like they acknowledge it. The one-on-one interviews is very personal. Like almost every episode, there's a segment where you see the backstory of the contestant. They show photos of what they went through. They tell their stories of how 2020 was for them. Kaya it made a big deal na they're talking about the black people who made it to the final. What? How many were they? Final 8. Yun. They were making plans of let's go all the way an all black final 4. How historic that would be. Then this was I mentioned before, this is the most diverse cast. 50% of them were POC. There was at least 2 gay people in the roster. We have a Filipino in the final 5, which is amazing, and she has an outside chance of winning it, depending on how the final episode will turn out.
What's the name of the season ngayon?
It's just season 41. There's no nickname. It's just 41.
Oh, wala siyang
wala siyang fancy.
Hot and cold.
Yeah, wala
Survivor hot and cold.
yung yung reasoning daw ni Jeff, who looks great for like a 50-plus-year-old who almost hasn't aged. It's 41, drop the 4, it's a 1 because everything has changed. And in a way, everything has changed. Like this is still a sort of a fresh reboot of like you're trying to ease people back into the Survivor competition. And, I like it. Like it's fun. Like as someone who's watched 6 months worth of Survivor, I'm enjoying it. And I guess the last thing I'll talk about is just so that konting on Netflix is I watched Money Heist. I finished it, and I was kind of happy how it ended. Like more of like this was a global phenomenon that brought everyone together.
The
like,
original Squid Game.
The original Squid Game, like in a way, this sort of paved the way for Squid Game to erupt globally. Like almost the same way how Roma influenced Parasite to be embraced. Parang ganun yung dating niya. So it's not like sobrang exciting like Money Heist. Like it's obviously panning to what the fans want to hear get that exact kind of thrill konting thrill ganun. But the reasoning because the stock market will drop ganun like anyway, I enjoyed Money Heist. Yeah, it's pretty sad I guess to see it end because a lot of people says it's their favorite show and I don't blame them. But Money Heist made it really helped Netflix a lot, like go even higher. Like apart from their old shows like House of Cards and then The Crown right now. And seeing now how Squid Game is doing, they got 3 nominations at the Golden Globes. As controversial as they are, that's a pretty big
And you have people like Leonardo DiCaprio asking for selfies from the Money Heist cast.
Yeah,
that just means so Squid Game pala, not Money Heist, but
wow.
Yeah, that's a small shout out to Money Heist. I keep on saying Money Heist but like to Squid Game rather, because it's rare to have a shared phenomenon where everyone just jumps on it. And at the time it was Halloween almost, and everyone was just like either a Squid Game contestant or like the robot girl, or like one of the army people. I'm not sure what you call this, but like the soldiers inside. But yeah, parang to see that kind of rare phenomenon that we don't we haven't had since Money Heist, I guess.
Mhm.
In 2019, walang ganun in 2020 because obviously the phenomenon we had was Miss Rona. But yeah, I mean it was a nice show to watch then. Personally, it was really fun to watch Squid Game as well. Any Squid Game adjacent thoughts here?
I haven't seen it.
Same. I haven't
Same
seen
eh.
it.
I didn't watch it. I was actually looking at. I was looking at.
Really?
it.
No one has
Oh,
watched it
okay.
here? Oh, I watched it. Okay,
Sorry.
I'll talk about it. Like really quick. I think that it's one of those things. Now, whether you like it or not, you understand why it has mass appeal. You get what I mean? Like,
Okay.
It's
like,
the K-popification of K-drama on a global level.
yeah, but I also think that, like, with all of the criticism and everything, I think that Squid Game actually manages most successfully to elicit like a very real emotional response from a lot of people, you know. And ako personally, like, even if it's like I wouldn't include it in like my top 5 or whatever, I do think that it sort of achieves something that I don't think is always possible, which is to be like to drive forward this sort of conversation that a lot of things usually just disappear after they're like screened, diba? Pero parang this is something na immediately after it was released, like even until now, people are still talking about it, you know, and that to me is like very, very difficult to accomplish now in an age where everything is so instant and so the turnover rate is so fast. Yeah, so ayun. More than anything, I think that's like an amazing accomplishment. Yeah.
Props to them.
For sure. I mean, yun na nga, as Jay said, it's impossible to replicate that. Nobody can like really like predict such as much as Netflix would say, this is our next big thing, and it just flops, right? So Squid Game just came out of nowhere. And you know, it's something na shared for a lot of the masses, and you know, sans the American reporters asking Lee Jong Jae na parang, how has it been going out? Have people been recognizing you and stuff like that? Parang this guy is actually one of the top Korean actors. It's just like, you know, the whites period.
Actually, it's also just very incompetent reporters, honestly. Like, if you're just competent at your job, you could kind of do better. So, ayun. Like, hindi, wala lang. I've been recently watching Hot Ones and
I love
the
Hot
Wings
Ones.
thing. And the interviewer there, si Sean Evans, is so great at what he does. And parang, I don't think people do that. Like, I don't think people are invested as much in. Obviously, that's very different. Those are very different settings. Pero, wala lang. I don't think people do their research enough.
It's more the clickbaity reporters who just like go surface level, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, wanna continue, Jay, since you have ano naman?
Yeah. Actually, like, for me, very interesting this year. Well, I love Squid Game. Like, I recommended it immediately to my sisters. But the one that I actually want to recommend to people, which I don't think a lot of people are talking about as much, is actually Hellbound, which is also from South Korea, I think.
And it's from the makers
of
ano, diba? Like Train to
Busan. And while I think that on a CGI level, it's not a Marvel film, you get what I mean? I do think that what it kind of unpacks and unearths is super, super interesting. I think may rise recently of like religious critiques. I know someone is going to talk about like films about religion later, but then Midnight Mass and Hellbound like really tackle like the machinations of yung religious structure and how it can also be a source of good, but at the same time it can also be a source of like terrible evil. And I think it's really, really, really interesting and really well acted. Would you believe that the guy in Alive, like that horror movie, is one of the leads in Hellbound? So parang yeah,
like the lead guy of Alive. Of hashtag Alive.
Yeah, hashtag Alive. Yeah, I don't know.
Hashtag still a thing in 2021.
I think so. Hashtag no way home. Yeah. But then apart from like Hellbound, I don't know if other people have watched Hellbound. Have people watched Hellbound here? I would recommend it. Kahit watch the first
Tapos na ba siya?
episode.
Parang I saw 6 episodes. Is that
Yeah, it's 6 episodes lang.
Oh.
The other one I wanted to recommend was Mythic Quest, which I feel like no one is talking about. Second season dropped this year, and tawang-tawa ako dun sa episodes. I haven't watched a lot of the other things on your list, but then I really love Mythic Quest because it kind of explores like a space that I'm not usually like very exposed to. So like video game culture and everything, I'm not really exposed to that as much. And I think that it's really funny. It's really inventive. It's actually what 20-30 minutes lang per episode for like 6 episodes and everything. So sobrang for me like sulit siya as a person na fan of like short films more than a lot of long form content. I like Mythic Quest. I also like WandaVision. Just putting it out there. Like I like WandaVision a lot. Yung last two ko siguro. I just want to breeze through my list because I feel like the others have more interesting stuff to talk about. Scenes from a Marriage I actually liked. I know that it will suffer a lot from comparison to the original. I think Bergman, right? Bergman work. But I think that on a sheer performance level, sobrang interesting and sobrang nakapuhaw in like first 2 episodes, and then it just gets like worse and worse and worse, and you kind of just try to figure out like almost why you watched it. It's actually more torturous to watch than Squid Game. Kasi sa Squid Game, sure kang may mananalo. Quote, may mananalo. Sa Scenes of a Marriage, lahat sila talo. And I feel like that's a very bleak reflection of life. The episodes specifically start initially with like a shot of like them in the set during pandemic, and then it transitions to like na hindi pandemic and it's this perfectly contained world again. And it's just an interesting way to reintroduce audiences into what you're seeing is like a spectacle. It's not necessarily real, pero you're still feeling these conflicted emotions na parang I'm very affected by this, parang, you know. The last one I put is also can be considered a film. It's actually On the Job, which is, in my opinion, it works better as a TV series, which is why I put it as a TV series. The one on HBO Asia is obviously a cut between the first On the Job, which has additional scenes with Piolo Pascual, with Joel Torre, with I forgot the other leads' names. And then the other half is composed of like the new Gerald. So Gerald pala. And then the other half is obviously the Venice Volpe Cup winning like segment. And for me, yung interesting part is how it almost feels in the same way like Hellbound. It's like 2 narratives that are connected thematically rather than like narratively per se. Parang ganun. And I like it. I actually really like it. I know that those won't make it to a lot of other people's lists, but I feel like all of them are sort of ambitious for very different reasons. And for me, that's why I just wanted to mention.
My question is, for someone who's already seen the On the Job movie, is it worth rewatching the series cut na first 2 episodes, diba? In the 6. Is it an 8-parter? 6-parter?
I think 6-parter.
So 4 yung bago, 2 yung from the old movie, right?
For me, yes. Kasi mas maganda ko yung flow. Like, honestly, like, mukha talaga siyang 2-part TV series. Yung first 2 episodes. Like, parang,
But you didn't really mind that you've seen it before with the way it's done now?
No, kasi I watched it when I was a freshman in college. So
imagine how long has that been?
Yeah, I'm not that old, Cholo. Pero
I mean, like, even for me, like, parang wow, that's
it's so long ago. No? Yeah, it was, I think,
2013. Yeah.
Magta 10 years na yan, Jace.
Wow.
I know. Amazing. Anyway, I'm going now. No, I'm kidding. No, but I like the first two episodes. You can skip it, honestly. Pero for me, it was very helpful to also immerse myself in a very different way doon sa first two episodes.
And how, parang what's the time jump between it just happens within the
It
world?
happens. It happens almost immediately, but it's a different location.
Gets.
So ang nangyayari, it seems like a different story, but it's kind of ano yun yung Rue Goldberg machine ba yun? Yung parang may basta yung parang domino, tapos parang magta-tip, and like you're in a completely different space, but it's tipping the same dominoes. Parang ganun yung feeling.
Gets. Yeah, I'm that's on my list definitely, but yeah, everything is on my list at this
Yeah,
point.
try it out. Pero like, if it doesn't work for you with like the
Yeah, I
first
mean,
few
yeah, I
episodes,
was
like,
waiting for it
feel
to
bad.
end. Kasi diba it was happening like weekly then at that
Yeah,
for a time.
yeah.
So I was waiting for like the complete thing so I can just binge it. Anyway, anything else, Jace?
Oh, wala lang. Yung on the job, just going back to it, it was just really nice to see like Filipino actors like have good material to like really sink their acting into. Like I like that aspect to it. If you notice, like all of my lists are usually very I don't know, parang weird places na acting driven. Yeah, so yeah, maybe that's just me.
All right. Emil?
Oh God. No, I'll try and make it fast. Also, I actually I feel like I haven't seen everything I want to watch yet, and the year is winding down. But and
Title
there's
of
a bunch.
our life.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, it's impossible to watch like everything really. So it's good that there's like a well-rounded sort of set of shows that we're talking about. But the ones I'll mention, there were a lot of. I mean, this happens every year, but there were. I think specifically this year there were a lot of really great like short British comedy dramas that came out. Like, I mean, we already know this from shows like Fleabag or I May Destroy You, though that's a little longer. That somehow in the UK they just really know how to write short seasons with short episodes that are really really good. Like if just to run down through a list of them, This Way Up with Aisling B, It's a Sin, which is about the AIDS epidemic, which is like 5 episodes. Starstruck, which is a romantic comedy about a meet cute between a woman and a famous celebrity, which is really good. The ones that are my favorites though are there's the second season of this show called Back to Life, which a lot of people compare to Fleabag. It's about a woman who comes home to her small town after she served time in jail for murder, and it's her sort of trying to adjust back to life. That's where the title comes from. But and it sounds dark, and it is, but it also manages to be weirdly funny in like a small town, like by the sea kind of way. And then the other short British comedy drama that I really like is on Netflix. It's called Feel Good. The second and final season yata came out this year. It's about a relationship between a stand-up comedian and then this woman that she meets at one of her gigs. But it also becomes about mental health and how a relationship can become an addiction to someone else as well. So I thought it was really insightful in that sense. A lot of mini series came out as well. I still haven't seen a bunch of them, like Midnight Mass. I haven't seen Maid with Margaret Qualley, which I really want to. Mayor of Easttown was really good. The one that really stands out to me though is the Underground Railroad, which is from Barry Jenkins. Incredibly hard to watch. I can usually binge a lot of stuff if I want to, and this one I really had to like pace myself and watch like an episode a day. Of course, it's about slavery in the Deep South, but it's also a fictionalized take. So instead of the Underground Railroad being like a network of safe houses for slaves to escape to, the show, which is based on a novel, imagines an actual underground train ferrying people from one state to another. And it's a really weird, like it's the weirdest thing that Barry Jenkins has done, but it's like the quality of it is really cinematic. But again, I'm just trying to race through this. My two like favorite shows of the year. On the comedy side, there's a show called The Other Two, which had its second season this year. It's so like this is like the funniest the most I've laughed watching a comedy since Veep maybe. And it's about two 30-something siblings whose younger Justin Bieber-esque brother becomes really famous. Like he has like a viral sensation, he has a viral hit on YouTube, and then he becomes famous. But the twist here is that the younger brother is actually really well adjusted and a nice guy, and it's the older siblings who are like completely opportunistic and like just sink deeper and deeper into just selfishness, trying to
Being
use
the other two.
yeah, exactly, using his fame to their benefit. And I think it's so funny.
Isn't like season 2 like about their mom getting famous also?
The mom becomes a talk show host, like a morning show host, and they also start to piggyback off that. And they fail obviously miserably, but that's where the comedy comes from. But yeah, but for me, like undisputably, I feel like the best show of the year that I've seen, which just wrapped, is Succession. And this is coming from someone who I'm not even like a massive like stan of Succession. Like I wasn't really sold in the first season, and it only took like up to season 2. Exactly, Paula. It takes a while. It's like shit.
Still haven't finished.
Yeah. But
This
I
is
think
HBO, right?
it is, yeah. By season 2, like the show really sort of figures out what it wants to be and what it wants to do. And by season 3, it's really just firing on all cylinders. If you want to see, like, I saw a tweet saying something like, "Oh, these actors on Succession are acting," parang ganun. And it's true. Like they're like, I don't remember the last time I saw like a quote unquote prestige drama, really sort of earning that title, because just on every level, I feel like it's really extremely well crafted and in a way that doesn't really rely on like anything too shocking aside from like lots of profanity. Like if you think of Game of Thrones, there was a lot of backlash on the fact that it relied on violence, like graphic violence and different kinds of graphic violence. Even Breaking Bad at some point is, it has that whole action thriller aspect to it. And Succession is really just about a bunch of kids who were verbally and physically abused by their dad, and now they're working with him in the same company. And I would say that that's really more of the pitch of Succession than, it's about rich people managing a business, because I think the show makes it clear that it doesn't care about that as much as it cares about how these characters are really, really damaged. So I really enjoy watching them suffer because they're all horrible people. And that's where the appeal comes from, like weirdly in a paradoxical way. But yeah, I think everyone's talking, like everyone on at least my feed is talking about Succession. So if you haven't yet, if you can get through the first season,
short series.
No, it is not.
It's not.
It's very long. Each episode is like an hour long talaga. It's 10 episodes per season.
I'm really having a difficult time.
It takes a while. Like I really
yeah.
wasn't like a fan of it at first, and then stuff happens and it's like, okay, you're in it for life.
I'm watching it for Nicholas Braun mostly.
Oh yeah, no, he's like 7 feet tall. And he's really cute. So
yes, exactly.
I love him.
Anyway, okay, so that is my list. Yay.
All right, Benny.
All right, I will zip through it really fast. Preamble, what my list shares is they're both comedies and they're both about people with massive personalities who don't know where to put them. I, like Paula, I've been looking for movies. My movies are about people who find joy. For TV shows, it's really just about people, like, it's basically the TV show equivalent of like smoking pure grade cocaine. Not that I know how that is like, I don't, but like it's how I imagine it's like. So my two shows are Girls Five Eva and I Think You Should Leave. Girls Five Eva is maybe one of my favorite supporting comedy performances in a while, with Renee Goldsberry as the embodiment of like an extremely talented but extremely diva-esque artist who owns an invisible piano she calls Ghislaine, just to give you an idea of what the show's humor is like. It's very 30 Rock. And it's fantastic. The music is very fun. It's about 4 people who used to be part of like a girl group in the 90s with a one-hit wonder deciding to reunite now that they're like 40-year-old women who are looking for a purpose in life. It also has Sarah Bareilles, Busy Phillips, Paula Pell, and occasional appearances from some of the members of the Mean Girls, the musical cast. So
Ooh.
excellent, extremely Denny Corey show. Highly recommend. My other one is I
You
think
can make a
You Should
shirt that says Denny Core.
I should. The other one is I think you should leave. I don't know if it's as
Okay,
big
I'm
a
gonna leave.
phenomenon.
I'm just kidding.
I don't
Go
know if it's
ahead.
as big a phenomenon in the Philippines as it is in like my Twitter feed, but it's becoming sort of this thing where if you're in, I think you should leave. You're in it for life, and the people who appreciate the show and kind of it's either you're on your wavelength, you're on its wavelength, or you're not. And if you're on its wavelength, you kind of learn a different language. In which, in the case where you like, when you understand like in jokes from the show because it's a sketch comedy show, about the theme is about people who make an awkward situation even worse by doubling down. So like the very first skit is someone he pushes on a pull door. I know he pulls the push door, and instead of just admitting his mistake, he pulls it off the hinge. So that's the kind of humor of.
This is on Netflix, right?
This is on Netflix.
It's Tim
And
Robinson, right?
Tim Robinson. It's
Okay,
amazing.
I love him.
There's
All right.
there's a whole skit about people, a website that sells pants, just in case you don't want to admit that you accidentally got your pants wet in the bathroom, like you dropped some water on in the sink. So just think like it's the most brain dead, head empty show, but it's also just brilliant.
I love it.
Yeah, those are my show recs.
And I guess to wrap up this TV segment is Paula.
All right. So all of my shows are, well, except for one, I guess. Like they're generally super babao, but like they're shows that have made me super happy throughout 2021. So I love them. So the first is Midnight Mass, and I think it's a show that hasn't gotten enough hype because it's such a I mean I've talked about this in a previous episode. The way that it talks about religion, specifically Catholicism, really hits home as someone who is in a very devout Catholic family in a devout Catholic country, and I think that every pseudo Catholic or someone who pretends to act Catholic needs to watch the show and really see who they are in some of these characters, because it's not a pretty picture really who you are as people of faith, and the way that it plays out in the horror aspect as well. As someone who's not a fan of horror, it's something that I can easily digest, and it's not like too out of my comfort zone for me not to enjoy. I really absolutely love it, and it's my favorite of the director's works. The second one, and we're delving into the really kababawan na, is Miracle Workers. I've only started watching the show in 2021, but it's so good. An anthology comedy series with Daniel Radcliffe and Steve Buscemi. I mean, what more could you ask for with a more like absurd plot every season that it gets? It's not like the best comedy anthology series I've ever watched, but it's definitely something fun and palatable for everyone, I guess. In terms of animation, I'm really, really happy with Bad Batch. As someone who wasn't super into, I mean, I watched Clone Wars and I've watched a little bit of Rebels, but the animation of Bad Batch is beyond beautiful, and the story itself, the characters are great. It's mostly voiced by one man because they're all clones of each other, so it's grabe the voice acting in Bad Batch. It's just awesome to create like all of these different personalities of characters who are eventually stemming from one gene. It's great, and it relates to the entirety of the Star Wars universe itself in a really beautiful, not nakakasawa way, which is important. And then in anime, I'll talk about Demon Slayer in another part of the show, but I also want to hype up Way of the House Husband. It's such a quick watch. It's like barely 5 minutes an episode, and the animation style it's like stylomatics. So it's really seeing the manga come to life. The way that the manga itself is drawn, it's just basically colored and it moves just a little bit, but it relays the comedy of the manga really, really well. And honestly, everybody should be like the house husband or the husband in this series. Is very supportive of their spouse and willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that they're living a comfortable and happy life. And support their dreams. Yeah.
And it's a really short show, right? Mga 10 minutes lang or
5
something.
minutes nga lang minsan yung ibang
Yeah.
episodes. It's so fun. I had a good like belly laugh in a lot of these episodes, so that's always great.
Maganda ba yung live action? Have you seen that?
I tried, but it's not as funny as just the animation. I think there's something humorous talaga in the way that the character is drawn versus if someone is acting it out. There's that beauty of animation talaga.
Right.
Yeah, this is super kababawan, and I don't know if it's a niche enjoyment, but I love the iCarly 2021. As someone who was a huge fan of the TV series growing up, it's a really, really good way to reintroduce the character to the audience now as adults, because she's facing adult problems and not in a super forced way. It's all just very natural. Freddie has gone through like 2 divorces and is moved back in with his mom and now has a stepdaughter to take care of. Carly hasn't figured out her life and is regressing to the person that she was when she was a teenager. And who can't relate to that, especially in this pandemic, right? Hell, it's the reason why I'm watching the show in the first place. It's because I have somewhat regressed to high school me, and I'm having a great time at that. Honestly, I'm just embracing the things that I loved growing up, and iCarly 2021 is a good way of doing that. And last but not least, because it's what got me into the sport in the first place, Drive to Survive, the Formula One documentary series on Netflix. It's bound to have a fantastic season 4 based on how this 2021 race season came about.
So good.
Right? So if you are just even like curious about the sport, because it's a very fascinating sport in and of itself, and want to understand a little bit more about it, it's definitely a good place to start. The drivers are super charismatic and hot, if that matters to people. I'm sure it matters to a lot of people.
It's a good hook, but once you're hooked, you're hooked.
It's how I got Cholo into it. I just linked him like a bunch of the drivers, like, look how hot they are. And then when he watched it, he was like, oh, the sport itself is great. So,
and would you expect me of all people to get into this sport, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's how I hooked a lot of people into it. But generally, like even outside of the attractive drivers, like it's just a really, really interesting sport.
It's like a real life sports anime, as Paula would say.
It is like a sports anime, because although there are like intense rivalries and really toxic fandom, but that's every sport naman. The drivers themselves, like they're very friendly with each other. They except siguro the top 2 rivals, but everyone else is genuinely like super friendly with each other, and it's just a great thing to watch. And you never run out of content after you watch Drive to Survive, because there's like a whole plethora of things to watch on YouTube, on TikTok.
It's a white K-pop, essentially.
Yeah. I have like specific biases for certain drivers and
like the content they put out for drivers.
Yeah, definitely.
And like the crack edits, it seems very K-pop.
And the crack edits come from the official page of the sport. It's not just like fan-made edits. No, it's like F1 as a meme from the F1 channel.
They've yassified themselves as a Gen Z sport, but
they know their audience. Yeah, which is
great. For sure. Like I think I saw somewhere na among all the sports during 2020 to 2021. F1 is the number one that really has high engagement also online, and has gotten as much
and gained the most new fans in the pandemic.
Exactly. And all thanks to Netflix, Drive to Survive, I think it's a really great push for the sport. And definitely, you go for your own reasons, but like you stay because it's just a great, putting aside that it's just like such an excessive rich people sport.
It is. It's super
it's just really like a fun community to be in, to see, parang to root for people and teams. And it's just like a great thing to get into, I feel. And bond with your friends, get your friends into it also. So yun, thanks Paula for that.
Sure.
Year-end year-end boodle that is F1. Congrats to our new world champion, Max Verstappen. And it's been a controversial end of the season, but
Congrats to Carlos Sainz for placing fifth in his first year in Ferrari. What an amazing feat. Okay.
Congrats to Kimi for retiring.
I know.
For a long
may
time.
people leave him alone.
Yeah, we'll leave
Leave
him
him
alone
alone.
now, and now he has his drink. That's a very niche series of comments, but yes.
But
Go
yeah,
F1.
I mean, it's been a great season to get into F1 for sure. And anything else to add to the TV segment before we head on to movies? And yeah, I mean, Paula and I have been speaking about F1 for maybe the last 5 episodes, but you know, it's just like the agenda, the vroom vroom agenda. Get into it. Um, and now we head on to movies. It's been a weird year for movies for Paren for sure. You know, transitioning from streaming only to hybrid releases to cinemas only. So, you know, it's been the accessibility of a lot of movies are really depending on where you live, how you access things, how good you are at finding things. If you have friends who provide you links, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And also, I mean, usually I'd be a champion of Filipino cinema, but this year, parang, syempre with the height of the pandemic, not much cinemas, not much productions aside from those Viva Max movies that we shall not really talk about. But, you know, aside from that, wala masyadong lalabas talaga aside from a few ones from Netflix, some from iWant. I've only seen I would say a handful of original and new 2021 Filipino films this year. I'm not sure if it's my fault or like there's just really not a lot of choices that I could choose from that I would want to watch. But so I guess my list, that's just an opening to say that my list is really what's accessible on the Western front. Although I did see some short films on Cinemalaya, mga ganyan. Pero wala pa rin yung, you know, shared experiences natin before raving about some Filipino movies that you should see, and that hasn't been much of a thing this year, on the last 2 years more or less, and now we're opening up cinemas again. I guess the first Filipino movie that came out in cinemas is called The Musical or whatever. Let's not talk about that further, but they are opening up cinemas for MMFF 2021, which I do not personally agree with as well, because I wouldn't want to see myself crowded in a theater. So I'm not sure. May announcement na ba sila on the, like, are they streaming some stuff or it's just really exclusively in cinemas?
I think it's cinema pa rin, di ba? Kasi ang
Like
latest
purely
na alam ko
cinema
is-
na.
Yeah, ang latest alam ko is the Procession will push through. So we're gonna see floats again. So,
Oh, well, that's
the float will be
interesting.
back.
Pero parang not a lot of hype surrounding it, I guess, this year. With the weirdness of it all, na being the first full foray of Filipino cinema in major theaters after 2 years of closure. Jace, I think you wanted to say something on that.
No, I was just gonna say, parang yay, we're gonna have floats.
Ano lang, mango float lang yan.
Traffic isn't bad enough. Traffic isn't bad enough. We just need to make it worse. And obviously, like, taxpayer money needs to go to that shit. So yeah.
I'd want to make a movie called Float in MMFF. I mean called Mango in MMFF, so I could have a mango float in that.
Bye.
Look, if
That
that's what
is
it takes
it
for
for
you to
our
make
show
a great
today.
Would win the award
movie,
though.
not like
That
beyond.
would win the award for best float.
Yeah.
Sana naman may Graham pa. Mango Graham.
We're good. We're okay. Let's move on.
Okay, moving on to our movie list for this year. I'm just gonna be pretty quick. I did see a lot of movies, but not necessarily 2021 movies. Syempre, I'll start off with the Marvel one. Shang-Chi has been my favorite one out of the 3 that came out this year. Although, you know, you can say it's kind of Marvel formula at its heart, it's still really picks up a lot of its heart and its charm in the Asian heritage, in how beautiful the choreography is in the fight sequences, how charming Simu Liu and Aquafina are as leads, and of course Tony Leung as the dad talaga. But generally, that was just a really like, if since we're Asian, it's our Black Panther sorts. And I mean, you could relate on a more, parang you could relate more on that level rather than other cultures that, in other Marvel movies. So parang you'd feel more at home with Shang-Chi in a sense na, you see those things in your everyday life. Versus, I guess, earlier in the year, we had Raya na medyo condensed lang siya, all the cultures in one movie. This one, syempre, merong mga touches na not necessarily Filipino, but like, as an Asian in general, and seeing just an Asian cast as a whole, it's just great. And Shang-Chi was just like, wow, it really lived up to its hype and was just beautiful. Any other Shang-Chi thoughts?
As a Marvel hater,
Oh my god, you're so brave.
Shang-Chi was solid. I think a lot of the flack, and a lot of the flack I agree with, is that there's not a lot of sensuality in the Marvel movies.
Oh yeah.
In the sense that, these are people, they get like vibe. But I will say the hottest scene Marvel has ever shot is the opening of Shang-Chi. Where Tony Leung and Fala Chen have that
tension.
Okay, the hottest person in Marvel right now is Tony Leung.
Tony Leung is...
He looks so good.
Tony Leung is...
He didn't need any of that
So
CGI.
I'm so sorry, Simu Liu, but
Oh yeah, no,
Thank
his
you,
thunder
CGI,
was
because it was CGI that made them require Tony Leung to roll up his sleeves. Thank you, CGI.
God bless.
Bear in mind, Tony Leung is 59.
Yeah.
crazy.
And I look like this at my age.
Hey,
Hey, come on.
Pero do you get what I
you
mean?
look
Like,
great,
it's-
Jay.
You look great.
Thank you. Pero like, nag-fish lang. No, but I
Oh
really-
my god.
I think those first 3 fight scenes, like the dance between the lovers and
Foreplay,
and the
The building.
The bus.
The
bus.
The
the
bus,
bus
yeah.
scene and the scaffold fight
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
the
were
scaffold.
so good. Like we're so good. I think.
They were very good. Like, not even just like for Marvel,
Yeah.
But the fight
Not gonna
choreography, I
sidetrack
think,
it.
is
They're
just
solid. It's solid.
it's
solid.
it. Yeah. 'Cause the last one that had like halfway decent fight choreography was like Winter Soldier with the hand-to-hand combat
And that was
scenes.
10 years ago.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like that great. I was just like, oh, there's some fighting over there, but yeah.
And I think it fills the space for like some sort of martial arts adjacent movie that we haven't really had. Generally, I guess on
Not
a
in
mainstream
the
level.
scale.
On a mainstream,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Ano,
Na
may-
parang I think I remember Dren mentioning some TV show that's kind
Yeah.
of martial artsy. I forget which name
Iron
that
Fist?
was.
Hi, Carly.
No.
Hi, Carly.
I'm kidding. I was just randomly.
I mean,
Yeah,
Carly does
an
some
episode.
martial arts probably in one episode.
There is
Okay.
the iCarly martial arts episode. I
Yeah.
remember it.
Oh,
The
Warrior.
original
What the
series. I
heck?
don't remember the details, but there is one.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so parang that space is filled, I feel, and that was a great sweet spot for Shang-Chi to like manifest amidst all the parang, hurdles or whatever you'd like to call it in that white dominated superhero space.
Mhm.
And yeah.
And if you like Shang-Chi, watch Hero 2002. Also has Tony
Yes.
Leung. Also
Yes.
very hot.
Yeah.
Watch
Yes.
Crouching Tiger for Michelle Yeoh.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
watch Michelle Yeoh. She's also so hot, and like
Yeah.
at her age, what?
She has a new movie coming out in like January. Forget the title, but it looks fun.
Good
Yeah, I
for
just saw
her.
it somewhere. Anyway.
Yeah, so to continue my list, I really loved from Netflix Tick Tick Boom. Like, wow. I mean, I really needed that movie in my life as I was headed to my birthday and feeling so down, and just like, Jonathan Larson's work and seeing, what goes through. We only know a lot of creators for the massive hits that they've had, but not so much, the work that they've had to go through to create such hits, or what they've gone through, before such success. And that kind of feeling that we all have, especially in this age, na I guess if you're a millennial, or if you're like in your mid to late 20s, it's just like a great reflective thing to watch, na parang you don't know where you will go from where you are right now, but just trust and believe, and you will probably find your way somehow. And that was just like a great opening scene pa lang. And Andrew Garfield was just really like a revelation. Like nobody knew he could do that, I guess. And even he himself parang admits na he didn't know that he could sing like that until he was like cast in that movie. So yeah, great stuff. Tick Tick Boom. I'm just gonna run by some of these really quickly. I really, really love the Fear Street trilogy from Netflix also. We haven't also had a good slasher, like a good old classic slasher vibe on anywhere. I mean, we did have like, the Halloween reboot, all that. Ano pa ba? Mga Ready or Not, mga ganon.
There's going to be Scream.
The Scream.
Exactly. Scream 5 or 5 Cream. I don't know.
5 Cream.
Oh no.
Yeah, but like I mean, in general, a lot of the slashers we've had are kind of like big budget franchise slashers, but to have an original ish. Well, this is based off of R.L. Stein's Fear Street books, but kind of like pushing that onto the Netflix era and having a whole trilogy of movies about it. It's really a lot of good fun. And with there's queer characters, female fronted, diverse, I guess. So Fear Street, all the three renditions of it, 1994, 1988, and
1666.
66. So yeah, those are, I mean, I guess you can watch them all separately, but like just watch the whole thing. Really, really fun stuff. Also really fun that I enjoyed and I wish I had seen in a cinema is Free Guy. Just the epicenter of the Disney Fox merger and like what it means to be in a video game in 2021. And Ryan Reynolds, I guess, at his best also, and in his best form, and putting it out there. I mean, putting the Deadpool out of it, but like, putting that energy into something a bit more original and not comic book adjacent. Really, really fun stuff. Any other Free Guy thoughts that you might want to add?
It was fun. It was really fun. Really fun watch.
I loved it. Like as a casual gamer, there were so many like hints and personalities that were there that I never would have expected in a film prior to this one. It was just a good, fun watch, and it got Fantasy by Mariah Carey back on charts. So that's always something great.
And I think it was one of the earliest pandemic parang theatrical
cinema releases.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wish they had like brought that back here, parang for that cinematic experience, but they did not. Anything else on Free Guy? Just some honorable mentions for me. Candyman 2021 was also really good. Just parang watching both the original and the revived versions definitely fits the Jordan Peele produced era of like, being black in 2021 and what it still means, coming off of the same sentiments that came in 1994. And another honorable mention, some more honorable mentions rather, are Spencer. Kristen Stewart was just great, and the score as well was really good in really helping her deliver that performance as well on screen. And Malignant, that was just really fun for me. Like, objectively speaking, not really James Wan's best work, but once you get into the thick of it, as the 2021 TikTok trend, into the thick of it, it's just really a lot of camp and a lot of fun. But I don't want to talk about it. Just find find Malignant, and you will have some crazy good fun by the end of it, I would say. Yeah. That's my list for this year. Paula, I think, wants to go next.
All right. So just again, very quickly, the Suicide Squad, I think in terms of like
Oh
another like
yes.
comic book movie for this year, I think was really good. It was such a great way to bring, because I love the Suicide Squad as a comic, and it was such a good way to bring it back to the cinematic universe with, and make us
Without
forget the first one,
yeah.
which is really really bad. And I'm excited for Peacemaker because of it, because I never assumed that I would be into his character as much as I was after seeing the film. And James Gunn has really proven himself to be a really good director in terms of these types of movies. So, and we have a whole episode on the Suicide Squad. Go and listen to that for more thoughts on it. But yeah, that's definitely part of my top films of the year. I watched it in 2021, but it was released in 2020. Promising Young Woman. I know it's a film that really hits different when you're a woman yourself. There are definitely things that I'm sure men can't like fully relate to when they watch it. So as a woman who watched it, as a woman who's seen the film, I really saw myself in so many of these moments, and the fears that I have for myself, for my other female friends, female presenting friends, like everyone who understands the type of oppression and every possibility that you could have just walking down the street. It's frightening, but there's some I don't know, like revenge or that good sensation, I guess, when you're watching someone like take something, do something that you personally can't do for yourself or for the people that you love. So I think it's a great watch, for especially if you're a woman. Free Guy was mentioned. The documentary that I really want everybody to see, I don't know why it hit me so hard, is The Rescue. I didn't pay like super close attention to the Thai soccer team cave incident when it happened in 2018 but 2019. Yeah. I knew about it like generally, but I never like delved too deep into it because again, like children in perilous situations are definitely like a difficult thing for me to swallow. And that definitely aided in the way that I watched The Rescue. 5 minutes in, I was already like sobbing just at the thought of these children in such a dangerous situation. But what got me through it, I think, is one, the spirit of humanity and just that feeling of generosity from people that is very rare to see nowadays. It's prevalent so much in The Rescue, and every single character that they interview, every single person rather that they interview, kindness and just that good feeling of knowing that there's a happy ending at the end of this film. That definitely like is a major selling point to this, because otherwise it's not something I could probably stomach seeing. So The Rescue is a great documentary for everyone to watch. Mugen Train, entering into the anime aspect once again. If you're a fan of Demon Slayer, I loved season 1, but I think Mugen Train was a much better like way to present the lore of the universe of Demon Slayer, and just really good fight sequences as well. And the animation of Demon Slayer in general is so beautiful. It's so different from any other anime I have ever seen, despite it being another like fight sequence or like mystical type of anime that's not genuinely new. But the way that Demon Slayer presents itself visually is so appealing, and the spirit of, again, humanity in the main characters at the forefront of Mugen Train. And moving forward with the rest of the season now, as it starts the newest season for Demon Slayer, you can definitely see how the events of this film aided the growth of all of these characters. And it's also the highest grossing film ever in Japan. Like, despite it coming out during the pandemic, it's still the highest grossing film ever in that country, which says a lot. Demon Slayer isn't even like the best or like highest charting manga or anime in the country. So that says a lot about the film in of itself, I think. And then lastly, this is, in terms of film, my biggest obsession, I guess, to come out of 2021, Dune. Oh my god, like I wish I watched this in cinemas because of just how great it is. I came in like really with nothing in mind, and came out just like the biggest stan of this franchise. You can really feel the love that Villeneuve has for the material, for the source material. And he gets it. Like he understood the assignment. I watched the original right after watching the 2021 version just to see the difference, and after reading the book as well. And clearly Villeneuve really understood where the original was coming from. So I'm excited for the sequels for it, and I'm glad that it got as much hype as it did as well. And Stan Zendaya, even though she was barely in the film, for clear skin. We all want to be like
It's just
Zendaya.
winning at life, right?
Good for her, honestly.
Can I just say about that? Imagine like being in a film for 5 minutes or whatever and getting paid that much. Like,
I mean,
dream.
Mark
Yeah.
Hamill got paid for The Last Jedi just for throwing a lightsaber behind, or like for putting down his sword. That's
Force Awakens.
For TFA,
The Force
for TFA,
Awakens, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Ay, Force
And-
Awakens nga pala.
And I mean, I think Zendaya has really like deserved it. I mean, putting herself on that A-list na at this point. So parang queen behavior only.
Dune good. As a Villeneuve hater, Dune good. And I also just want to say Desert Power. I just feel like I need
Desert
it.
Power. Yeah. Oh, and Oscar Isaac is so hot in this film.
I was about to say that.
Goodness
Oscar Isaac is
gracious.
hot, period.
Yes,
He's right,
but
he's
like
right, he's
exceptionally more so in this film. I
Okay.
would say.
No,
He will
no,
be-
there are exceptions to Oscar Isaac is hot. Like
Okay,
he
fair
has
enough.
to have a beard. He has to have a beard.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so
I don't think he needs to
either.
have a beard.
I disagree when people say he's hot in Star Wars. I'm like, no.
Dude, him
He's
like,
super
in the
hot in
Last
Star Wars,
Jedi
baby.
sliding into the
Yes.
the ditch. That was my whole like sexuality for that year. Like that was just it. That was what I was attracted to that year. The only thing I was attracted to, specifically that scene. So yeah, Oscar Isaac hot.
I want to say
Right.
so many things, but we do not have time. But anyway,
I'm so thirsty. all right, okay. Someone else take the.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I can go. So I'm just gonna like very quickly breeze through my list because it's a bit. So my favorite movie of the year is well, actually, I have 2 movies in my 5 favorite movies of the year that are both from the same director. So Ryosuke Hamaguchi has had a great year. I'm sure Jace will back me up on it, and Emil, if you guys have seen it. Drive My Car is the best movie of the year. It's the first movie I've given 5 stars since Asako 1 and 2, which is also by Ryosuke Hamaguchi, like 3 years ago. So it's
I
just a
remember
lovely
that
film.
in your 2018 list. That's crazy.
It's been a while, but yeah, Drive My Car is this lovely exploration on grief and art, and the sort of it's reflective of 2021, and that I think this is a year that's been about grief and just attempting to figure out how to continue to persist despite. And I think Drive My Car captures that extremely well. There's so much movie in this movie. And right after, it's the kind of movie where you just kind of have to lie down for an hour and just kind of digest it when you're done with it. So when it comes out or when it becomes available to y'all, you should definitely, block out 3 hours of your life and see it.
Okay. Noted.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone wants to add to that, if anyone else has seen it.
I love Drive My Car in a sense that it weaves in the Uncle Vanya play so seamlessly into the story, and I think that this is for me. This is one of these perfect examples of quote unquote representation. Na parang it's woven in so intricately into the fabric of the film that it's not just treated as a checklist. There's a Filipino, there are people from different parts of Southeast Asia, deaf characters and all of that, but all of them that aspect kind of bleeds into this whole aspect of communication also at the center, like communicating not only intent but also your own grief about your own life and all of that, and communication as far as connection. I think that actually Drive My Car is really about a film that's centered around wanting to connect and being unable to connect to people. and I think that that is actually really resonant. Actually, same Denny, probably my top two or one of my top five. Two of my top five will always be the Hamaguchi films. Personally, I would rank Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy higher, just because I was just so impressed by the short films format and how there was an increasing escalation in terms of yung coincidence and chance and the necessary choices. But I think that Drive My Car is just like a huge flex. Like honestly, it's like you kind of think, how did he manage to like weave in all of these things and for it to not be or feel contrived in any way? Like it genuinely feels like it needs to be as long as it is. I know it's like 2.5 hours.
3 hours. It's 3 hours.
3 hours. Yeah. So parang and you don't always want to sit through stories like that, even if you can binge watch Squid Game or whatever. But then, but then I think that this is the kind of film that merits those 3 hours, and it never really feels like any minute is wasted. Parang it lingers where it lingers. It speeds through what it needs to speed through, and I think it's a beautiful achievement in cinema. Yeah, and I'm actually happy that it's getting international recognition. And I really hope that honestly, like it goes like gets nominated for other categories apart from best international feature for the Academy Awards, because I think that Hamaguchi is just a great filmmaker all around, and I think this has been a long time coming. Yeah.
Well, can I just add like really quickly also that the thing that I got from Drive My Car was the idea that it talks a lot about how we try to process our feelings through consuming other art and trying to process other art. Because I mean, it's not a spoiler to say like throughout the entire film, the main character is constantly revisiting this play, and he's revisiting it in fragments, and you know, trying to put these fragments back together again through different actors, and all of that is just him trying to figure out his own grief as well. And I thought that was fascinating. I'm gonna make a really, really horrible comparison. Drive My Car and Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, both of Hamaguchi's films this year, are like Hamilton and In the Heights in the sense that I'm definitely more impressed by how Drive My Car is put together, and I think technically it's clearly the better made film. But on a personal level, like I would also, like Jace, rank Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy a little higher just because it's so ordinary. Like the way that film is made, for lack of a better term, feels so normal, and it makes me feel like I could pick up a camera and shoot something myself because it's not glossy at all, which is what I really love about it. So yeah, I'm gonna give it back to Denny. Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, I think Drive My Car is maybe the better movie. Like it's my favorite movie of the year, but Wheel of Fortune Fantasy feels like more of a miracle, I guess. It's like, how is it this good versus of course it is this good. Also, every time they spoke Tagalog in Drive My Car, I was just the Pinoy Pride meme. That was me.
Yeah, and it's not bad. Like it's proper. Like
they got a real Filipino actor
and a real translator. Yeah, so like it's good.
Like Pinoy Pride, let's go.
Ano yung role ng Filipinos in this movie?
There's one.
It's like they're staging a play that's basically multicultural, and there are subtitles sa likod. Yeah, everyone speaks their own language. Yeah.
So one of the actors they got is Filipino, so he's speaking Filipino, and the person's responding in Chinese. So it's like you have to really know your beats. And I thought,
where is the car? Just kidding, Bobo question.
There's a lot of car. There's a lot of car in this movie.
There's a lot of car in this movie.
There's a lot of car. Yeah.
Okay, so another great movie, and like I won't belabor it because I don't think it's like out, is Licorice Pizza.
I've been hearing so much about it.
Can I just say I am so jealous of you because Paul Thomas Anderson, my birthday. Like anyway, go.
One of the great birthdays. Licorice Pizza, not gonna belabor it, but it's the best American film of the year. It is. When it comes out, there's going to be a lot of really annoying discourse on Twitter because PTA does take a few risks in how he builds the story, in the sense that the man doesn't have Twitter, so he doesn't know what are landmines and what are not. I personally am like okay with it. I think they work, but beyond that, it's great. Alana Hayam is great. Cooper Hoffman is great. The music is great. Bradley Cooper for Best Supporting Actor. Just overall, maybe it's a mess, but it makes me feel like it's okay that, my life is a mess, So yeah. Worst Person in the World, also about a woman who is a mess. But Renate Reinsve, I don't know if I got that right, probably messed that up. But she is my favorite performance of the year. Just it's like Frances Ha plus Wheel of Fortune in fantasy. It is it's one of the great expressions of the millennial experience because, like, how do we remember our life? We don't remember it as one big story. Remember it as like discrete pieces that don't fit together. And I think that's what Worst Person in the World is. It should be, it's a cathartic experience if you're anywhere from 25 to 35. Like, that movie will like elevate your soul. And like, I won't belabor. Power of the Dog is on Netflix now. Great film. As I was telling to the people I watched it with, surprisingly horny. Did not expect that, but just like I was expecting like a normal Western. Then I remembered, all right, this is a Jane Campion movie, of course. Just one of a great cinematic achievement. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is winning Best Actor. Sorry to Will Smith, but I think it's gonna be Benedict Cumberbatch. He's just acting in this movie. Like, I don't know if it's always good acting, but it's always capital A acting in this movie. I don't know if anyone else has seen Power of the Dog, if anyone has like other thoughts, but
Not yet.
It's on Netflix. It's very good. Petit Maman by Celine Sciamma, as represented by my shirt. Great film about childhood. And I think very much about Sciamma's preoccupation with female-only spaces. And just, it's one of her best movies, and it's not like, it doesn't announce itself as a great movie. Like Portrait, when it starts, is a great movie. It just yells out, I'm a great movie, and it earns it. But Petit Maman is such a quiet, like when we said that Wheel of Fortune is a miracle movie, Petit Maman is also a miracle movie. Shout out French Dispatch, one of Wes Anderson's best. Bergman Island, a fantastic meditation on what it's like to be a female artist and just the responsibilities of that. Bad Luck Banging is extremely wild. And like, I know me and Emil disagree on it, but that ending just works for what the movie is, but also doesn't work for what the movie is. And that whole middle section, which is like a dictionary type thing, is one of the best sort of sequences of any movie in 2021. Y'all should definitely catch it. I also really love Bo Burnham's Inside. I really, really, really love Bo Burnham's Inside. And I will count it as a movie. And, and I want to close. I finally attended a movie with a protest outside this year. Benedetta had a very wild Catholic protest outside my screening. And it makes sense because it's about like, it's about lesbian nuns. So makes sense. But a dude with bagpipes showed up. So that was the strange part. And they were singing like Latin hymns outside the church. And we were like, we're already inside. We bought the ticket. I am not sure what you're protesting. So it still went wide in AMCs around the city. And I know it's like screening on a streaming service in the Philippines. So definitely catch Benedetta if and when you can. I don't guarantee you'll like it. I don't think it's a capital G great film, but it's a wild ride. So that's all of my stuff.
I'll try and go next because as we keep telling Cholo, we'll try and make this fast. So I only
that's how we go about naman in the last X years of this show. We'll try to make this fast. We'll try.
Yeah, we'll see.
Sorry, Cholo, I did my best.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Take your time. It's the last show of the year.
Oh, that's true.
Let's give some space for what we feel like people should watch if they do have Christmas breaks. So yeah, go ahead, Emil.
Okay. Before we started recording this, Denny was talking about how you felt like you didn't have like a movie that only you were championing compared to lots of other people. I don't know if this really counts for me, but at least among the people I know who've seen it, I feel like I'm the only one who like really, really loves it, which is Passing on Netflix, which is the film from Rebecca Hall starring Tessa Thompson and Ruth Negga. I don't really have like a passionate defense for why I think it's one of the best movies of the year. It just vibed with me a lot. I guess this is like this. You can take this as a critique also, but it reminded me of what I tried to write in college in when I was in college. So maybe it's not good, but like I liked it a lot.
Doesn't just pass Emil standards; it excels.
No. Okay. Thank you for that. And then another film that probably my favorite, I would count it as a horror film of the decade so far, is Titan, aka Ride My Car, because that's what she does in that movie. She rides a car in that way.
So may drive my car, may ride my
Of course.
Or
That
rather,
was an excellent joke.
rather the car rides her, if that makes sense.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's messed up completely. Like,
but in such a tasteful way, no?
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on your definition of tasteful. I mean, yes, that's true. It is, but like, I would never show it to like my parents.
Oh.
You know, something like that.
Don't watch it. Don't watch it with like friends unless you're sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I watched it with friends, so that was fun. No, but it's really wild and like says. I feel like if it doesn't really say like a super definitive concrete thing about gender and like our roles in families and stuff, it at least like asks a lot of questions, which I really like. And then the last three
Sorry, I
things
just want to say that
Oh.
Titan is just so fascinating na parang it's kind of it's in that weird zone that you don't really like get what's happening, but nonetheless you're just so like enthralled,
Yeah.
like just so like okay, I'm gonna watch this, I'm gonna finish this, I'm gonna alam mo yun, parang it's just really like something you get yourself into.
yeah.
It's just like beautiful that way, even though it's not like alam mo yun, it's not parang for normies, I guess.
No, yeah, it's definitely not
Oh.
like your typical like horror movie. Sorry, Danny, what were you gonna say?
No, don't. Yeah. I was just gonna say, yeah. Don't bring your normie friends to see Titan and say like, oh, it won the same award Parasite won.
Oh yeah, no, that's so nope.
Won't work that way.
There's
Never
no
introduce it as
there's
that.
no mass appeal to Titan.
Exactly, but you know, for what it is, it's just really
Yeah.
just like
Excellent.
parang compelling in that way.
Also wholesome, weirdly enough.
In a way,
Really
yeah.
wholesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very touching.
Sorry, as someone who's never seen the film, you're telling me that a film that a car rides a woman is wholesome?
Yeah.
That's,
She bangs a car and she gets pregnant. That's the synopsis. And then
Yeah.
it becomes very wholesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're serious.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
there's lots
for
of
real.
death in it too.
All right.
For
Let's
real.
put it on my list.
It's either the weirdest movie about family or the most wholesome movie where a woman rides a car or a car. rides.
I mean, how many movies are there where a woman rides a car?
I can name
Well,
at least one more. I can name
that
at least
way.
one more.
Okay.
Let me talk about this really quick. Okay.
You all should see the movie where the girl from Portrait of a Lady on Fire rides a roller coaster. And I mean,
Oh,
rides.
that's Emma. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna need a list of
Yeah.
these like adjacent films.
Cars 2, Cars 3. and rest.
Which
Alright, I'm
reminds
sorry,
me,
I'm sorry.
which reminds me of a tweet that I saw. I think Paula liked that.
I love that tweet.
Let me just search it up real quick as we
Ito ba
are
yung
talking
ito ba yung
about
sa tatay?
Oh.
cars. Yes, yes. Let me just
Oh my
search that
God.
up real quick. Teka. Ayun. Me, how can I impress your dad? GF, he's really into cars. Me, okay. Later, her dad, nice to meet you. Me, let's talk about Pixar's finest movie.
That's a good tweet.
And just F1 adjacent. You know, I think part of why I really loved F1 is because how I grew up with cars and really like cars and just really like, oh, this is like Lightning McQueen and the pit stop. Alam mo yun, the piston, they're trying to win the Piston Cup, which is the world championship. It's just really like cars adjacent.
But no way in real life will there ever be a three-way tie in Formula One the same way that there was in the Piston Cup in Cars 1.
Pero yun lang, it's just really like, and you know, a lot of, actually the goats of F1 have apparently appeared in cars like
Yeah.
without us knowing
Schumi.
prior, like Schumacher and even Lewis Hamilton. crazy.
It depends on which region you're watching. So if you're watching in Germany, they got Vettel to voice the character. So yeah, it changes wherever you're watching. So that's a little like Formula One cars trivia. I don't know how we got here.
No, that's why I'm laughing. I'm laughing because you suddenly start talking about cars.
This is excellent plot twist, but
It goes back to the vroom vroom agenda.
From
Right?
agenda. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, Emil.
Anyway,
after your
I
last
was just gonna wrap up by saying, like I want to champion a few documentaries as well, because there are just so many documentaries, especially like on Netflix, and it's a lot of true crime, which I'm not personally into. So the three documentaries that I really liked this year, one is called, it's spelled Wojnarowicz, but it's pronounced Wojnarowicz. So it's about a mixed media artist who, I mean, this documentary is a real person, but it's about the life of this mixed media artist who lived in Greenwich Village in New York during the AIDS epidemic. And it's about his art and his sort of like activism, but the film is presented almost like something he would have made himself. So it's chaotic and it's very transgressive at certain points. And yeah, I really enjoy it for that reason. Another documentary, Summer of Soul, which is directed by Questlove, which is about the Harlem Cultural Festival, this sort of forgotten, quote-unquote, Black Woodstock, where like it's just superstar lineup of the greatest Black musicians from the end of the 60s. And the concert footage in this documentary is insane. Like it's some of the best live musical performances you will ever see. Like Stevie Wonder playing drums. I didn't know he could play drums. Sly and the Family Stone, like pretty much anybody who's famous in the late 60s in Black America. And then my personal favorite documentary of the year is surprisingly on Netflix, as much as I give Netflix flack for their selection of documentaries sometimes. There's a documentary called Procession, which is like Ted Lasso. It's about therapy. It's literally about 6 men who are engaging in this thing called drama therapy. And what they all have in common is that in their childhood, they were sexually abused by priests. And they use this program to create like little short films or filmed scenes of like reflecting on their trauma or reenacting those incidents. And really just to sort of heal and cope with it. And they begin to form a community together through filmmaking and through just, being there for each other as they reenact these horrible things that happen to them. And it's one of the only films this year where I feel like it sounds like an insult, but it doesn't feel like there's a director, in the sense that the subjects, the main characters feel like they're directing the film itself. And all that Robert Greene, the credited film director, all he had to do was really just sort of follow them and honor their story. So it's very, very difficult to watch, for obvious reasons. But it's probably the best documentary I've seen from Netflix. And it's a documentary that I think reminds us what the form of the documentary can do and should be able to do. A lot of people think it can only just present facts or retell events and whatnot, but this is really sort of providing healing for like these 6 men. So I would super recommend it if you have the mental strength for it. Yeah.
All right. Last 2 people.
I can go after Emil.
Huh?
You're gonna go na Jace?
No, go ahead.
Sige. Sige. Let's see. Try to make it quick also, if I can. It almost feels unbelievable na Godzilla vs. Kong and Zack Snyder's Justice League came out this year. Like,
oh my god.
It felt like ages ago. In this weird limbo of a year.
Felt like ages ago. Yeah. So just to remind people, yes, it came out in 2021, and though I guess we have a episode about Zack Snyder's Justice League. Watch it in live if you can. And we said na it's nice that this exists. We're happy this exists. It patches some stuff up, and I think our agreement was it was better. It was better in a way, but I can't imagine. Imagine how awesome it would have been to have seen Godzilla vs. Kong in a cinema. because that was a
Yeah,
blockbuster.
that's something we
That was
missed
a
on for
blockbuster.
sure.
Oh. If it was released like October, there might have been a chance na the Philippines would have gone for it. Kasi wala, bitter ako. But yung talaga, like imagine, I'm seeing Kong punching Godzilla twice. Sobrang
With especially that final battle with that like
yeah.
neon lights.
Ah.
Hong Kong ba yun? Hong Kong yun.
Yeah, it was Hong Kong. My God, I wish talaga it was in the cinema because I would have risked
one of the
my life. I would have risked my life for
Oh my
it.
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
What I did risk my life for was I
Was
did
what?
risk my life for Dune though, which Dune was the first movie I watched. In the
I mean,
cinema.
there was only one other person with us in the cinema, so
Yeah.
we didn't really like risk our
Yeah,
lives.
but I was really happy that I watched it in the cinema because it really was, like what Paula said, Denis Villeneuve really understood what he had to do, and he made it a real cinematic experience. Na like, wow, the sound design is amazing. Hans Zimmer's score is, oh my god, and I get to experience it with the surround sound ng Dolby. It's like, this made me happy na the cinemas are reopening again. What other movies that I think I want to recommend that I enjoyed also? I did enjoy In the Heights. Like for someone who didn't like went in blind, it was pretty fun. Like 'cause a lot of musicals this year, and it's still, I think In the Heights is still like the best. I know, like this is coming from someone who was yet to watch the new West Side Story, but yun nga, In the Heights is like it was pretty good, like not bad, great. Another one that I want to recommend is The Green Knight by David Lowery. This is literally Dev Patel looking the best. Like, oh my god, he's always looked great for the past 5 years, but oh my, he looks great here. Well, I'm a big fan of yung mga gantong kwento, like the Arthurian legend, and I really like how very artsy how very folklore yung dating ni Lowery sa paggawa ng movie. Wala, na-enjoy ko lang siya. Another one, this one's on Netflix. It's The Harder They Fall. It's a western, mainly, actually not mainly, all black cast. Really, it's a really fresh I don't think I've seen a good western like this good because I haven't seen Power of the Dog yet. But yun nga, The Harder They Fall, ang galing. I mean, an all-star cast. You have Jonathan Majors, Idris Elba, Regina King, and then soundtrack is amazing. Like, the director made the soundtrack. It's it sounds really good. It looks really good. Well acted. Wala. This movie should have been getting the marketing that was being put for Red Notice. Like, oh my god, why they roughly came out at the same time? Why weren't a lot of people talking about The Harder They Fall? So,
I guess because westerns aren't really a thing like worldwide versus
I guess, yeah,
general blockbusters. I don't know. Parang yeah. Anyway,
go
ahead.
Makes me wonder tuloy. Okay, if they stole the MOA Globe for Red Notice, what would they have done for Harder They Fall kaya? Makes you wonder lang. I don't know.
Yung Bounty Fresh Chicken.
I love that chicken.
Buti pa yung Bounty Fresh Chicken may jowa na kasi nakita ko yung dumaan ako doon tapos dalawa na silang manok.
Talaga?
Buti pa siya.
Then, ano lang. Quick finish. I watched Finch, which was Tom Hanks. I think Tom Hanks is at this point in his career, and like, you know what, I'll do whatever I want. It doesn't matter anymore. And he still does a pretty good job. And I think Finch was a pretty wholesome science fiction movie. It's like it's on Apple TV Plus. And when I watch it, this is actually pretty good. This is Tom Hanks being Tom Hanks, but it's amazing how much emotion is in the robot. Like for a artificial character, sobrang emotional lang voice niya lang. So, wala, natuwa ako dun. I mentioned this before. It's a animated short film. It's Blush. Written and directed by a Filipino, Joe Mateo. Very emotional. He wrote it for his wife. Again, I'm recommend it because it's really good animation by Skydance, and even more touching story, especially since you know where he's coming from. And you know, Pinoy Pride. It's a really nice short film talaga. Nakaka-touch talaga siya. Paula messaged me after she watched it. She cried. I don't
Sobbing.
blame,
I was like,
I
damn you,
don't blame
Burns.
her. I don't blame her. It ganun talaga yung dating ng blush, and I loved it. For the moment I finished it, I watched again and made my sister watch it with me. Ganun, that's how ano talaga, how touched I was. And just to end, speaking of touch, I the one of the most recent movies I watched was Belfast. It's not a lot of people like think it's amazing, like sobrang ganun ganon. But for me, like personally, I told Emil, Jason, Denny this na. I related it with it so much because yung kwento niya, Kenneth Branagh, kasi it's inspired by his own life. Yung kwento niya, it really reminded me of my dad's life because when he was younger, he grew up poor, and because of financial situation, and he had to move, he had to move to Australia, he had to leave the country, and he had to leave his life behind where he grew up. Everything that his family knew, his whole entire family, his whole life. Oh my god, I'm getting emotional. He had to leave his entire life in England just so that his family could, you know, move on. And it ang daming how I related with how Kenneth Branagh made it so personal. Like ang daming I was telling my dad na there's some aspects in this na you told me. Ito yung kunento mo sa akin. Like growing up, playing in the streets, his dad, the character's dad played by Jamie Dornan, working far away just to make ends meet. The mom staying at home whenever she could to take care of her and my grandmother, she told me, because she's halfway through the movie, she told me that she really saw the grandparents as my great grandparents, staying at home, knitting, fixing, woodworking, and wala. I just really resonated with Belfast. So, I will admit that it's not the best film of the year, but I will sort of defend it because of how personal it means to my family at least. And I sent it agad to my grandmother who said she loves it so far. I can't wait to see once it ends what she'll think about it. And I also sent it to my dad. Na I hope he gets to watch it and he gets to see himself in that little kid and little Jude Hill, who is amazing in that movie. And yun nga, wala. I was really touched. Like I didn't expect to be so emotionally attacked by this movie. Sobrang na-touch ako. And I'm also so happy na it tied most nominations sa Golden Globes because it's not the type of movie that would do that, I guess. I'm not gonna cry.
Okay, so I guess ako na. Parang hindi ko, I don't know how to follow that up. Well, malaki yung overlap ko with a lot of other people's lists. I love Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy and Drive My Car by Ryusuke Hamaguchi. I love Petit Maman, tama ba? By Celine Sciamma. I love Celine Sciamma forever and ever. I think that particular film is so simple, and it's actually like a perfect pandemic film that can perfectly exist outside of the pandemic. Does that make sense? I love Titan. The way I would describe it is that it's about how monstrosity is curbed into like a form of humanity and all of that, and how gender and all of these boundaries are blurred by desire. Like that's my parang thesis of it. Like wala siyang pake about all of these like categorizations. Ang pake lang niya is like desire and love to a certain extent, which is weird given that it's a film about a serial killer. But then I like Dune. I find myself comparing Dune, every blockbuster now, to Dune just because of how a lot of the naturalistic shots are, and also how, in my opinion, ang galing ni Rebecca Ferguson. I think Rebecca Ferguson in this, she completely like subs on every other person in terms of acting. But I wanted to like give shout outs to like at least four other movies that people siguro aren't talking about as much. This was on Denny's list, but Shiva Baby is great. It's a social anxiety set in a funeral, right? A funeral. And wala lang, it's a perfect like encapsulation of like claustrophobia, self-induced, a form of self-induced claustrophobia. And the best part about it is that it's wholly convincing. It's actually like a nightmare situation that I feel like a lot of people will experience once they start reuniting with their families for the holidays, which is terrifying. The second is Mitchell.
This is your stop for all things pop. Catch our all-around pop culture geek, Cholo as he throws in some dose of what's poppin' and what's hot in the pop culture scene here on Popcorn. Munch in with us every Thursdays from 4 to 6, only here on radyo-katipunan 87.9 FM. Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Blue Eagle kami, di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpaan